It's time to let them all go. Let them all go. They're all going. It's time for you to cut ways with everyone, right? Like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to talk about this completely to all the ones that are chasing that ascension, all the ones that are trying to rise, all the ones that are trying to do better with themselves, develop, and just try to cut out all of the unnecessary stuff in their lives so they could reach the aforementioned state of development and ascension, right? When I talk about cutting people off, I'm talking about people that have this heathen-like mindset. Party on Fridays, drink excessively, we're still smoking weed, we're still doing drugs, unironically, just because these guys have a lot of pressure from daily life, which is part of life in general, and they need some way to detox or to de-stress or to find some sort of catharsis, of course, to fulfill the internal Newton's first law of motion. With every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, but the reaction that they're taking is completely incorrect and farcical to true growth and health, optimal health for the body. We're cutting, this is 2026 now, we're almost at the end of February, we're essentially at the end of February, one more week, 5 days. And it's gonna be the end of this month. We need to cut them all off. All individuals with heathen mindsets, they're in the past, they're in the trash. I'm also stressing this for your family members as well. Imagine you are an individual, right, that was, say, tapped into spiritual knowledge before it got a little mainstream, right? You guys understood about the special property, the magical properties of numbers, the symbolic nature of numbers and number sequences, which is called popularly angel numbers now. You understood a lot about religion. You understood a lot about what Jesus was really saying, what Buddha was really talking about, what Lord Shiva and Mistress Parvati was on about, really what that union truly means, really, even though Lord Shiva was an ascetic and he still made it with Parvati. There's a lot, I'm telling you, when you were into that for years ago, decades ago, right? And your family members weren't necessarily supportive of it, or you try to speak to them about it because you try to speak to other people about it, your friends, and they didn't really communicate with you. You spoke to your family because you believed, oh, I understand it. The same blood will understand it too because we're the same person, essentially. And they shunted you. They made you feel as if everything you were saying was crazy. You were a nutcase. Just to come around in this modern time and they are spouting the same things that you spoke to them about decades ago, acting as if they were always on that timing. These are the individuals that you need to cut off immediately. And in fact, you could not listen to Sombra del Piso. You could keep them in your midst and you can keep them in your circle. But then you're going to slowly understand that underlying mindset that pervades all souls that are not ascended and have not gone through the proper impetuses to clear out this disease from themselves, which is the disease of bandwagoning. All souls have it. All of them. All of them. When there's a popular mindset being spouted, it could be the most degenerate mindset. People are going to follow it. Aldous Huxley called it the herd mentality. When there is, this applies to many, many mindsets, even ones of spirituality. Once upon a time, I remember, because that story that I spoke about was essentially my story, the one about where I tapped into spiritual knowledge very, very early in my life. I had a good friend at the time, and then we made a lot of deductions about the world underneath the one that we were shown, the physical world, and the meaning and symbolism and synchronicities of it all. We wrote a lot of things down. Of course, a lot of this information, by the way, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm not tooting my own horn, but a lot of these deductions came from me. He just came along for the ride. I made the majority of the deductions, seriously. And I made a lot of inferences and references. And so I remember I tried to speak about it to my family members, and then they ignored me a lot. They marginalized me. They kept me on the side. Right? They ignored everything I had to say about spirituality. And it's hilarious now, I talk to them and they incorporate this kind of talk as if they were always following that information, when in reality, it's just popular now because of social media. And naturally, we live in a capitalist society, and capitalism denotes that everything that can be sold or peddled and marketed will be peddled, sold, and marketed. And that includes spirituality. And so obviously that became mainstream because it was an untouched stone. And now my family members are pretending that they were always into it. Cut them off. I'm telling you, they're not, because when you Because inevitably, if someone that comes into information like that, just to follow on this little track, someone that comes into information like that is an individual that's ahead of the curve. And so when they're ahead of the curve, again, naturally, because that's their natural state, it's a reflex of who they are, you're going to try to communicate to your family members again. But of course, it's not popularly spoken about. It's not broadcasted from the rooftops, and they have a whole crowd agreeing with what's being said. And so you're going to face the same situation until the cycle comes back around again. The paradigm completes itself. And people are speaking about this on social media, and then they'll pretend that they've always been on it. Cut them off. Cut them off. Anyone that's let's move on now. Anyone, family members included, friends that speak about money, that are over obsessed with the matters of finance, you cut them off. Dead serious. This is just a needless worry that you guys should have. Money, yes, we are responsible for our lives through the medium of finance. We cannot survive. I could not have this wonderful, glorious apartment if it weren't for money. And that's with everything in life, most things in life. But you need to understand that it is only a means to an end, and it's not the primary means. It's not the primary reason for existence. There are things that are way more important than money. Money is a catalyst for discovering what you could truly do, right? And so you work, you save money, open a 401k, you have an investment portfolio, you invest in the stock market because you want to be able to do the things that you want to do. And when there are people that base their personalities around money, right? That base their personalities around this thing that is a means to an end, a catalyst for something else, then you have to really worry about what they're even doing in the first place. What are their true interests? Like there's situations, imagine where you have a family member and you've treated them constantly, all the time, right? And it's not because you have an excess amount of money, it's only because you prioritize family over anything money-wise, anything finance related. But then after the excess years that you have spent money on them, or just treating them financially, and then they come around when you ask for a small favor, and it's not a small favor money-wise, but it will cost them money. But it's just that you're just asking for a favor just because, it's family. Yo, can I do this with you? Like take a cab or whatever. And they demand that you pay them back. That's an individual you have to cut off. You don't watch them because and they're your family member. So you already know what kind of timing they're on. That's what they worry about. And so cut them off. They're separate from you. Don't ever invite them in your space. There's nothing they could teach you. They're only going to push their oppressive mindset on you. Cut them off. It's 2026. What you want to do, you rather be on your own, messing up, running into walls, than to be with someone that's constantly demanding of your energy and your time and your nerve energy. You don't want that in your life. I promise you, it is not beneficial to anyone, especially you, my friend. What we need to be worrying about is staying on seam retention, understanding what that discipline could bring to us through our idiosyncratic gifts due to our genetics or due to what we've done in life. We need to understand ourselves way more. And a lot of people in the world are not on that self-reflective journey. A lot of people receive the catalyst. We are no different from individuals across the world in regards to their spiritual journeys. Everyone receives the same catalyst. Everyone receives the same impetuses. Everyone meets the same types of people, more or less, everywhere in the world. And that's a fundamental spiritual truth. The thing is that a lot of people they all have the eyes to see opportunity, but they choose not to take advantage of it. When I talk about opportunity, I talk about opportunity in terms of spiritual growth, ascension of the inner self, right? People are presented with these things all the time, but they would rather stay in comfort. They would rather stay in their own circles. When you meet people like that, or when you are around people like that, that will coax you to remain in your position, remain in your state, and eschew change. Not just avoid change, eschew it. It's a word that means to dislike gravely. You don't need that in your life. Change is always going to hurt, especially when you're coming from a state of comfort to a state of complete discomfort because you don't know where you're at and you don't know where you're going to end up because of this mysterious destination that you've arrived in. Because of that, the brain is going to try to trick you into remaining comfortable, remaining still, remaining avoidant to change, avoidant of disclosing any information about your discomfort. And you need to discard and remove anyone that makes you feel that you are fine where you are. If there are things that you're missing in your life, you have personal ambitions, say you still live with your parents in an incredibly feminine household or an incredibly masculine household, you are not making enough money, you don't understand the Bible as much as you thought you did, or you don't understand religion as much as you thought you did, then you need to make a change. And that change, of course, because you've lodged the seed in your mind to pursue change, it will happen to you, but it's not going to be in the ways that you expect. It's not going to be some sort of Hollywood-esque montage on training yourself to become adept in whatever it is that you're chasing. It's going to be very toiling, it's going to be very lonely, and it's going to be very, very painful, seriously, existentially, mentally, emotionally. And you don't want people in your life, friends and family included, that are not going to support you on this journey. You are going to be sad, you're going to be by yourself. And if they're not supporting you at all, if they're not just there for you, they don't necessarily need to understand what you're going through, but they're not supporting you in whatever it is that you're going through, then trust, you don't need them. You don't. We are past the age and era where we need to stay connected to our families and friends just because we spend a lot of time with them, of course, with the friend side, and then on the flip side, with your family, you are of blood relation. You don't need to remain in that situation. A lot of people have heathen-like behavior, and so we leave them in the past with the rest of the heathen. We're here to rise, and that's all it's about. Stay disciplined, stay focused, and stay ambitious, guys. And with that being said, that's all I have to say for this video. If you guys enjoy that kind of content, like, comment, subscribe, share the video with some peers. Don't ever let this place get you down. I'm telling you, man, I learned a lot about myself recently. There's a lot I have to say about this alchemical journey that I've embarked on since last summer, by the way, that may open my eyes to really who's on my side and who's not. You don't need necessarily to pursue truth if you have the conditions in your body to attract truth, because the truth is gonna knock on your doorstep, and you're gonna know exactly what it is. It's not gonna be some salesman selling you false identities, false personalities, and false mindsets about holding on to family just because they've been in your life for a very long time and they're of blood relation. Truth is going to knock on your doorstep, and they will reveal themselves, and you will understand it. And I implore all of you guys to make sure that the correct conditions are in your body so you could perceive objective truths and take them within yourself on your journey of ascension. I love you all, guys. Stay radiant. I'm going to see you guys in the next video. Woo!